Hey guys, good morning. Welcome back to our channel, the Eton Squad. So on today's video are about airlines that requires negative COVID-19 test before boarding and airlines that doesn't require this document at all. Details coming right up. So this was actually a request from one of our subscribers in the comment section that if I could make a video on which airlines that flies to the Philippines that requires a negative COVID-19 test before boarding and airlines that doesn't require a negative COVID-19 test. But before we start, I want to remind everybody that this update is as of March 15 of 2021. But please check with your airline prior to departure because these travel requirements are subject to change anytime. These may be their travel requirements per airline that we are going to be discussing today, but it may change in a few days, in a few weeks, and in a few months. So if you guys are flying to the Philippines using a particular airline, I recommend to check the latest travel requirements on that particular airline before your departure. So let's begin with this update. First, we are going to talk about the airlines that requires a negative COVID-19 test before boarding. First on the list is EVA Airlines. So here's what the travel requirements if you guys are flying with EVA Airlines. For the information of everybody, EVA Airlines has a layover in Taipei, Taiwan. So let's see what's their transit requirements if you guys are flying with EVA Airlines. Passengers are permitted to transit at Taipei, Taiwan, Taiwan International Airport, provided they will arrive in and depart from Taiwan on flights operated by the same airline group, and their transit time must not exceed 8 hours. All passengers, including passengers in transit, must hold a negative COVID-19 test result certificate issued within 3 working days prior to departure, or they will be fined between 10,000 and 150,000 Taiwan dollars and may face liability. So please take note of that EVA Airlines, even though you guys are just transiting in Taiwan, they require a negative COVID-19 test because if you don't have it, you are facing a fine. The 3 days are counted from the test report date and do not include public holidays in the country or region the certificate was issued or the day of scheduled time departure. So please take note of the validity of your COVID-19 test result. Our next airline that requires a negative COVID-19 test is Emirates. Emirates Airline has a layover in Dubai. All passengers arriving into Dubai from any point of origin must hold a negative COVID-19 PCR test certificate for a test taken no more than 72 hours before departure. So Emirates Airline is also requiring a negative COVID-19 test result before boarding from any point of origin. Our next airline that requires a negative COVID-19 test is Qatar Airways. Many countries around the world have specific regulations in place for arriving and departing passengers in order to limit the spread of COVID-19. Please ensure that you have completed all the requirements you need to comply with before you travel. In case with Qatar Airways or government regulation requires you to present a negative COVID-19 test result on departure and or arrival, Qatar Airways will verify this information at check-in and retain a copy of the test result. Please have additional copies of the test result available with you for submission. Passengers are also required to complete, sign, and submit a consent form at the check-in counters along with their negative COVID-19 test result. Please take note that Qatar Airways is also requiring a negative COVID-19 test result. And our last airline that requires a negative swab test result is Etihad Airways. You need to have a COVID PCR test before you fly to Abu Dhabi. You need to have a COVID-19 PCR test before you fly to Abu Dhabi, even if you are just transiting. For most destinations, your test must be carried out 48 or 72 hours before your flight, though this will depend on your final destination. So Etihad Airways is also requiring a negative COVID-19 test result. Just to recap, these are the airlines that requires a negative COVID-19 test result before boarding, even if you are just transiting to a particular country. Number 1 is EVA Airlines. Number 2 is Emirates. Number 3 is Qatar Airways. And number 4 is Etihad Airways. So please take note of those. If you guys are flying with these airlines, going to the Philippines, you will have to have a negative COVID-19 test result before boarding. And please take note of the validity of the COVID-19 test result before you board the aircraft or before you head to the airport. And like I mentioned before we started this video, this is the update as of March 15 of 2021. This doesn't mean that this will still remain the same in the next few weeks or in the next few months. So it's important to check the website of this particular airline, especially if you are flying with them on the latest travel requirements going to the Philippines. So now let's proceed to the airlines that doesn't require a negative swab test result upon departure. Even if you are transiting in a particular country, they still don't require a negative COVID-19 test result. Number 1 is Japan Airlines. Travelers who are not entering Japan and transiting directly to a third country by transit are not required to submit any documents and undergo a PCR test. So this is Japan Airlines. Usually their layover is in Japan and they don't require this document upon boarding. Next is Asiana Airlines. Asiana Airlines layover is in Incheon, South Korea. They don't require a negative RT-PCR swab test result, and the transit should be less than 24 hours. So this is their transit requirements. If you are flying with Asiana Airlines, make sure that your layover is less than 24 hours and make sure that your ticket is confirmed that you are just transiting in Incheon, South Korea, heading to the Philippines. Our next airline that doesn't require a negative COVID-19 test is Delta Airlines. A negative COVID-19 test result is not required before traveling to the Philippines. However, passengers, including children, are subject to a COVID-19 RT-PCR test upon arrival at their own expense and to quarantine at a pre-booked hotel. When they mean upon arrival, because this time, this is not the case anymore. When you arrive in the Philippines, you don't undergo an RT-PCR swab test result at the airport, but you will undergo on the 6th day after you arrived in the Philippines. So Delta Airlines is kind of late on their update to their website. So I will remind everybody, those who are flying with Delta Airlines, they don't require a negative swab test result before departure, but you will undergo an RT-PCR swab test result in the Philippines, not upon arrival, but on the 6th day after you arrived in the Philippines. So I hope we are clear on that. Our next airline is Korean Airlines. Holders of confirmed connecting flight ticket and passengers transiting within 24 hours. So I think Korean Airlines is also transiting in Korea as long as you're transiting in less than 24 hours, you are good to go and they don't require a negative RT-PCR test result. Our next one is United Airlines and Philippine Airlines. These two airlines as well doesn't require a negative COVID-19 test result before departure. Next is ANA Airlines or All Nippon Airlines. Travelers who are not entering Japan and transferring directly to a third country by transit are not required to submit any documents and undergo inspection. So take note to those travelers who are flying with ANA Airlines, you guys are not required to submit a negative COVID-19 test result before departure. Next is Cathay Pacific. So here are the transit requirements of Cathay Pacific. Passengers will be able to transit through Hong Kong if, number 1, their itinerary is contained in a single booking. Number 2, they meet the entry requirements of their final destination. Number 3, they have their baggage checked through to the final destination. Number 4, they have been issued their onward boarding passes from their origin. And number 5, the connection time between flights is 24 hours. So please take note of these conditions and able to transit in Hong Kong because this is where Cathay Pacific transit. So please take note of the transit requirements if you guys are flying with Cathay Pacific. And our last airline that doesn't require a negative COVID-19 test is American Airlines. Travelers are not required to provide proof of a negative COVID-19 test result before traveling to the Philippines. So if you guys are flying with American Airlines, you guys are not required to submit a negative COVID-19 test result before departure. So to recap, these are the airlines that doesn't require a negative COVID-19 test result before boarding going to the Philippines. Number 1 is Japan Airlines. Number 2, Asiana Airlines. Number 3, Delta Airlines. Number 4, Korean Airlines. Number 5, United Airlines. Number 6, Philippine Airlines. Number 7, ANA Airlines. Number 8, Cathay Pacific. And number 9, American Airlines. So these are the airlines that doesn't require a negative COVID-19 test result before departure. But please take note, this is the update as of March 15, 2021. These travel requirements are subject to change anytime. So please check with the latest travel requirements per airline before going to the Philippines. Because like I mentioned, these are subject to change anytime. Thank you so much guys for watching. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family whom you know that can use this video as reference. If you are new to our channel, welcome. We do travel updates, and if you are not a subscriber yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you will be notified on updates like this. And to our subscribers and new subscribers, thank you so much for the continued support and trust to our channel, the Eton Squad. I hope to see you guys in our next travel update. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless everyone. Bye!